played in 5 big leagues in your time. You played for Club Leon. Let's first get your thoughts on Club Leon entering this competition. They're in Pot 2. They're going to play against an MLS team. What was your experience like for Leon? What do you expect from them next year in this competition?
Well, I play for Club Puebla.
Puebla, excuse me. Yeah.
So, but I mean, all Mexican teams are tough.
Yes.
You know, they have so much history. They have the players that they bring every year, you know, from different parts around the world are amazing. So being there firsthand to see, you know, how it all works, how, you know, the style of play, you know, the professionalism, all that together. That's why they win pretty much every year this tournament, you know, because they do have the depth, you know, to handle, you know, the schedule that they have already in Liga MX.
Let's branch off that a little bit, DaMarcus. Is it just depth? Because I've said this in the background.
No.
Okay, it's not just depth.
Oh, no, not just depth.
Yeah,
not just depth. I just said that because, I mean, you know, their schedule is jam-packed just like MLS's teams, and, you know, their depth is a little bit, you know, bigger than, you know, MLS clubs. But their first, you know, 15 players, they're amazing. The amount of money that they're spending on different players around the world is amazing, you know, and little by little, you know, MLS teams are, you know, being able to, you know, to compete with that, but, you know, it's not there yet.
That was something that Peter Vermees brought up to us last year. We said, you know, what could you do differently to go out and get a better result? He goes, open this up, give me more money.
Yeah.
It was that simple for him. In terms of the talent, depth I get,
right.
In terms of talent, and more specifically, the time of year, because for MLS teams, you're walking in through preseason, you're going right into it. It is so much more difficult. Kind of give us a firsthand experience for you, playing-wise. Like, if you have to go into an environment like that, what's that like? Because I was at the Azteca last night, and I said, I cannot imagine walking in here, being DaMarcus Beasley for the national team. Now, it's not a club competition, but walking in, and 90 to 100,000 people hate you.
Yeah.
How hard is that as an MLS player?
I mean, it's difficult, you know, especially coming off a preseason where, you know, these games are basically your first game, your real game. You haven't really got a test of, you know, real competition. You know, you're coming off, you know, especially speaking from experience, you know, 3 months out of MLS not playing, and then going and playing a high-level game in this competition is difficult, you know. So that's a whole different discussion of changing the schedule or trying to, you know, give MLS teams more, you know, to compete with. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, they have to, you know, find a way to win, to basically. And, you know, for me, those types of games, you know, gets players ready to, you know, to play high level, bigger competition. And, you know, the more that they do that, they'll get more used to it.
We didn't ask Arch and John. I'm going to ask you. Can one of these MLS teams do it? Do you think it's time?
Yeah, it's time. It's time. I think, you know, little by little, you know, MLS teams, they're catching up. Obviously, you got, you know, LAFC, you know, Atlanta, Seattle. You know, those are some big names. They have some really good players. And now, what I think is different from the past is that MLS is bringing young, you know, players, not just the old guard, you know, 29, 30, 32. They're bringing in 20, 21, 22-year-old players that are worth $6, $7, $8 million, and then maybe sell them, you know, years to come. But they're bringing in those type of players so they can compete. You have to do that. You have to. Those types of clubs are going in that direction. I think to be able to compete in this competition just now, you have to do that.
DaMarcus, you were in this competition last year with Houston Dynamo. You guys beat Guastatoya, and then you lost to Tigres in a pretty competitive 2-leg series. MLS managers have a tough choice, and we'll hear from Garth Lagerwey in a little bit. They have to balance preseason. They have to balance the regular season, which is huge in MLS, trying to make the playoffs, plus trying to win the Champions League. If you were a head coach of one of these teams, NYCFC is looking for a coach, by the way. If you were a head coach, how much would you prioritize the Champions League versus the start of the MLS regular season?
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult, and that's what I go back to depth. You know, MLS they have to open up the pocket, but they have to compete in these levels in this type of competition. They have to, because really you can't, especially coming from preseason. Maybe in the middle of the season you can play Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, you know, consecutively. But when you're coming from preseason and, you know, you have basically a first 11, first 12, and then you go and play your league games, and then you try to go and play a Champions League game, and then you go back to your league. You're not ready yet. Forget it. It's difficult. And that's speaking from experience. That's speaking for facts. You know, and it's just how it is. You know, so hopefully, you know, MLS can see that and obviously get a little bit. I don't know how they can do it, but get a little bit, you know, more depth in teams. Maybe, you know, spend a little more money in the areas that they need to, and then, you know, we can have better results come the semifinal rounds, the final rounds, and hopefully we can win it one time.
Let's switch gears a little bit and go south of the border back to the Mexican squads. What's more important for them? Because they don't want to be, you don't want to be the team that loses to an MLS team, or maybe Saprissa makes a run, and whoever may be, Motagwe, we talked about some of those guys. Is it more important for them to win Champions League or to go win their domestic league?
Mexican teams.
Yeah.
I think it's both. These are, you're talking about Club America, Tigres, Monterrey. They're going to win everything. Yeah. I don't think they prioritize one over the other. I think next up, they want to win the championship in the league, and then they want to win, you know, the international competition. So for me, that's the mentality of these big clubs. That they don't just prioritize just one competition. They prioritize every single competition that they're in. They're going to try to win it. They're going to try to put their best 11 in each game, and the coach is going to pick the best 11 to win that specific game. And they, like I said, they can do it.
DaMarcus, who is most likely from MLS? You played in the league last year. You played LAFC twice, Seattle twice. You saw Montreal. You saw Atlanta, NYCFC. If you had to pick one to go all the way or to go deepest for MLS this year, who would it be?
Ooh, man, that's tough. I mean,
Bob, turn the camera off.
Yeah, right. Obviously, you know, you gotta look at LAFC, and what Bob's been doing there for the last 2 years is pretty incredible. And you know, the way they played towards the end of the season, you know, it's unfortunate they didn't get a chance to win a championship or get to the final. But that team is scary. You know, that team is scary when they're firing on all cylinders. They're scary to watch, and they're going to be, you know, a handful for any team from Mexico, from Guatemala, from Honduras. They're going to be a handful for anybody. So I can see, if I had to pick one team from MLS, I think LAFC, you know, was going to have a good run.
Do you have a tournament favorite? Anyone?
Is Puebla? No, I'm just kidding.
Same.
No, I mean, for me, you know, you got to be a representative of, you know, of your country's, you know, league. So, you know, for me, any team, you know, from MLS, you know, I hope that they, you know, win, and you know, and they can say, hey, you know, we were the first ones, you know, to do it. So, I don't really have a favorite, you know, out of every team that you know that's in the competition. But I think, you know, hopefully that, you know, one of the MLS teams can be in the final and actually go and win it.
We were talking before. We have less than a minute left. Roster construction. Would you like a team that's veteran laden, a young team, players in their prime? What kind of roster would you like to win this competition if it was an MLS team?
No, you gotta have both. You gotta have a mix of both. You gotta have youth that's gonna, you know, sometimes get the results at home. But those games when it's tough away from home, you know, you need leadership. You need, you know, guys that's been there, that's played there. You know, the places like Honduras, Guatemala, you know, even Mexico.
Still get the flair, but the boys pick you up.
Exactly. Yep. You know, you get that. So you need a mix of both. It can't just be heavy-sided on the youth side, heavy-sided on the old guys. It's got to be a mix of, you know, good competition throughout the group, throughout the team, and hopefully they can do it.